Hi, and welcome to another edition of Do No Harm. Today we'll be talking about self-awareness, the role of self-awareness in the context of this discussion about do no harm. I'm Mary Von Olin. I am a holistic recovery coach, and I'm here with my esteemed colleague and friend, Rebecca Carshare. Rebecca, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. I'm a medical intuitive and nutritionist for the past 18 years. And we're excited to deliver this episode and this whole series. So, yeah.
Hopefully you tuned into our introduction where we let you know what we're talking about and where we're headed with this.
Yes.
But essentially, we're here to speak truth and bring some common sense and perspective, which begins with awareness and helps to raise your awareness, hopefully, if you're tuning in. And so today we're going to talk about self-awareness because that's where it all begins.
Okay. So this is just my 2 cents about self-awareness, but and this I'd like to kind of set a stage for everyone, because when we're talking about do no harm, we're talking about going from harm to harmony. So I just want to set a stage for how I experience this reality that we're all in, and maybe that'll help better understand the bigger picture. So self-awareness to me means that we first and foremost are a soul, and we are inhabiting this body having a human experience. And so it's important to know that to start, because to contrast conventional medicine, they don't acknowledge that. They just see us as bodies. And that's and without going on a diatribe about that, that's the general gist, is that we're just a physical body. And so I absolutely don't come from that place at all, is that I honor the soul first. And so that's first and foremost. Number two, this isn't our first go around on earth. I know a lot of religions will disagree with that, and well, they have a right to do so, and I disagree. And again, I'm not trying to convince anyone, I'm just trying to lay a foundation. So we've done this before, and what we're doing is we're expanding and evolving every time we come in on this earth plane. And we have these bumps in the roads called trials and tribulations of life to expand and to evolve. We're here to learn lessons, and those lessons always are about love, and they come in all these different packages and forms. So let's just start with that. Okay, so you want to interject at that point?
Yeah, I mean, that's a phenomenal summary. I like how you said, I honor the soul. That aspect of ourselves, that's where we start, right? So obviously, if you're watching this video, hopefully you're open, at least open-minded enough to consider that if you've come from a different background, like Rebecca, you mentioned, if you've had the training or the, I don't want to say brainwashing, but the experience and the other people's knowledge or opinions thrust onto you, which many of us have from a young age, to just remain open that obviously there may be other ways of looking at things, and there may be a broader truth going on. I know for me, I know that on my path, there's always another level. I'm always finding, oh, I thought I knew about that, and now there's a broader truth, which goes back to what you said, Rebecca, about that we're here to expand, that this is an experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so if it's all lessons, and in kind of conventional medicine, when we're talking about physical ailments, and they only look at the physical body, I know you and I, as practitioners and being in the holistic world, we usually don't look at the physical first. There's usually some other layer that came before that. Then the physical part is sort of the last manifestation. It's the symptom. Right. That's to get our attention, which I'm sure you're going to speak to next. So I'll kick it back to you.
Okay. So again, I'm not here to create a case, so to speak. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm just laying down groundwork. So yeah. So where does illness fit into this story, right? Well, simply the illness, again, is an opportunity to learn love. And illness is brought about not by a separate entity, but actually ourself. And that's really critical. So what we have is we have the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. Other practitioners will call it the shadow. Carl Jung will call it, I think, just the unconscious. That's still part of us, and that needs to be illuminated. So, and meaning brought to consciousness. And so illness is actually the indication and the alarm system in ourselves when we have lost sight of the truth of who we are, which is, I'll just say, divine. So there are certain truths that, you know, that they can't be argued. Our worthiness, for instance, that we are enough, that, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But the point is that when we don't live from that place, our body will nudge us. It's like, oh, I get a little cold, or, oh, I got a little heartburn, or, oh, I can't sleep. And they are there as little gifts to wake us up to the truth of who we really are. And that's the premise when I counsel somebody. That is the platform. Do you want to?
Yeah, and that's coming from, I believe, kind of the highest perspective. So if you want to, the word fight comes to mind. If you want to battle an illness, you know, when people say, oh, I'm going to fight against this, I'm in this fight against such and such illness, fight against cancer, I'm going to battle this. I had a client once that said, he said, my wife and I decided that I'm dancing with cancer. It's a dance. That's, well, right. That's an improvement, right? Yeah. That if it's something outside of ourselves, that's where we tend to then focus on, oh, I'm going to battle this. It's a fight, you know. That to me is reminiscent of really the experience of resistance. We're resisting something. And what you're saying, Rebecca, right. I believe we're resisting the truth, you know, that we forget the highest truth. Mm-hmm. And when we forget mm-hmm. that, that's where we get out of alignment, you know, in all of our energy body, our spiritual body, our soul, you know, the different layers. And when it shows up in the physical body, of course, that's how it manifests, because we're in this physical plane. But that doesn't mean that that's where it started, so to speak. It's really within us.
Right. And so the outer world and the inner world are one. That's oneness. Again, just a principle that I work with. Yeah. So if you can digest that so far, I want to also point out that when this was a very pivotal moment in this experience, when I took the Avatar course, where they, which you must check it out if you haven't, and I'm not going to go there, but just check out the Avatar course. I went through some exercises in their program that I could not doubt. They basically led me to myself and helped me see that I had created whatever the problem was that I had come to them with. Using their tools, I was able to see that on a higher perspective, I set it up for my own evolution. There wasn't a problem, and yet I shouldn't say there wasn't a problem. The problem also came with the problem came the solution in it. I just had to see it from a different perspective. It was just miraculous. Highly recommend it. And that's how this whole plane works. When you have that eye for it, it's all this, you know, it's all one. So disease is self-created. And it's like, and someone might be like, but how could I create? No one wants to be sick on a conscious level. But then again, like I said, go back to the unconscious. We have in fact created it for our evolution. So from a higher perspective, and that brings me to what Dr. Wayne Dyer said, is that be a compassionate witness to your own existence. Mm-hmm. And then to couple that with Matt Kahn, and what he said is that our higher self is actually our own spirit guide to our human experience, to our human self. Okay. So come from an observer perspective. Like if you could get up over your head and go maybe get a 360 bird's eye view and look down and see it through God's eyes, you'll have a shift. And that's the healing.
Absolutely. You remind me of many years ago, working with a therapist who said, you can't see the water you're swimming in. You know, it's kind of like you're in it sometimes. And so when we're in it, you don't even know what it looks like. You don't even know what you're in, right? So you really have to, like you said, to get that broader perspective, come higher up. And then that gives us the objectivity, right? Because we're so subjective all the time. We're in the I, ego. Again, don't have the proper perspective, and getting that distance and practicing being the observer, like that great Dr. Wayne Dyer quote. That's what gives us power, because then we detach from that. You know, that we're kind of attached to certain notions, and we can detach and observe, and then get a more accurate perspective.
Right.
Oh, and I also thought you reminded me of theta healing. So a technique that Rebecca and I have both studied called theta healing, which is really a spiritual healing technique. The concept of the witness, they talk to us about that when you get trained, and that the idea is that all healing sort of requires a witness. And so as a facilitator of theta healing, you're really just calling upon this higher power that we all have access to, and witnessing it for the client. Of course, you can learn to do it on yourself as well, but it's an interesting concept, right? Just witnessing. It's taking a step back to see that perspective, and then you can have the awareness to be able to shift.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, thanks for reminding me about theta healing. The Avatar course also has a different tool. I think it's called the creation process. Don't quote me on that, but it's essentially, you want to feel into whatever you don't like that you want to get rid of. You feel into it, and you create like this ball within yourself and around yourself. And then in your mind's eye, you step back so you can see the ball, so you can witness it. And then you're able to recognize that it is a creation. If I'm standing here and I'm witnessing this crap that I don't like, this problem, well, then it's not me. It's a creation. And that's the shift. Okay. So anyway, I don't want to get into that too much. I think I made my point, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. There's power in perspective, and awareness is the key to power, really, to shift.
Yeah. And this is about power. Everyone wants to feel like they're in their power. To the contrast, let's talk about, again, why we're putting this series together, because in the contrast, you have something that would be deemed force, which is the opposite, for a lack of better words, the opposite of power. And that, with prescription drugs, they force the body. And getting back to what I just explained about why disease shows up in the body in the first place, it's to get our attention. Why would you then want to suppress it with prescription drugs? That doesn't make any sense. Don't you want to learn love? Don't you want to step into your power? Don't you want to heal? Because if you're taking prescription drugs, you cannot. You're forcing the energy, or resisting it, and you're resisting the experience that if you just allowed it, you'd get on the other side of it and have your healing. But instead, and again, it's ignorance, or just a lack of awareness, which is why we're doing this. But there's no logic in it. There's no logic in it when you understand why we're here, what we're here to learn, etc. This is, I don't know what other adjective to describe. Can you want to elaborate? I don't know.
I think that kind of sums it up.
Okay.
It's about common sense. When you take a step back, it's sort of like we get indoctrinated, I guess might be a word, to think a certain way, and to access certain tools, approaches to try to get better when we're not feeling well. And if we, again, get that broader perspective and even just look at it and say, does this make sense? Why am I seeking this route to heal myself when it's not really healing myself? And like you said, any experiences that we have, it doesn't have to be a physical thing. You might you might have something show up in your relationships, like a certain lesson or an opportunity for a lesson that keeps presenting itself. And the more you resist it, it just keeps coming back, right? I mean, you could be in an abusive relationship. There's an extreme example from relationships. And if you don't deal with it, even if you manage to get out of one, you're probably going to have another one, because there's still that lesson hanging around, and you haven't shifted what's inside yourself that's attracting that. That's the other thing that came to mind before, Rebecca. You're talking about, the soul choosing these things. It's kind of like law of attraction on the soul level, right? Because when we're unconscious, we're still we're attracting things. We're attracting these lessons. And if we can become aware, shift from unconscious to conscious, then again, I mean, sound like a broken record, then we have the power to shift things. Then we can really heal and move through it, like you said, get on to the next thing, and actually see it as an opportunity and see these lessons as potentially fun. They're not always, we laugh about them in our own journeys, right? But it can actually be a more enjoyable process, because when you know that you can get through them, even when they show up and you're like, oh, this doesn't really feel good, at least you have the power of choice and of awareness to move through it, as opposed to resisting it. And then it's just, that's miserable, right? That's the epitome for me. That's the epitome of being stuck. No one likes to feel stuck, powerless.
Love it. So the agree. So the higher self, the soul, the spirit in us, is can otherwise be described as the inner child. So I just want to point that out. And so think of, when you have a specific symptom, think of it as an inner child having a tantrum. What are you going to do with that child? Are you going to, force it to stop doing that? And so, again, going back to logic, it doesn't work. But yet that's what, yet prescription drugs are so prevalent. And so the other thing that I want to point out is that what else do doctors do as their solution to a patient's problems? But they want to kill bugs. Okay. The bugs are there they're there because the environment is set up they are just simply opportunistic microorganisms. And they're there because you've created an environment that invites them. And so, think about when you leave your garbage out. Think of, like, come on. So think about that. Why are there bugs in my body? Well, gee, let me see what kind of environment I have created that may have, invited them in, and look at it from that perspective. Now, the environment is, on a soul level, who do we have to forgive? Have I been maybe, am I chronically angry about something, or, am I feeling chronically guilty about something? They're going to go hand in hand. Someone like myself would be able to discern that very specifically, but they don't just show up. And so you can always, anyway, I lost my train of thought. But the point is that you don't just kill bugs. Again, by killing bugs, what are we doing? We're going against the story that I just laid out.
Yeah, and missing the point, right? We're forcing, here we go again. It's a battle. Like, let's battle the bugs, It's like when I've used, the PEMF technology, pulse electromagnetic fields. People say, oh, that zaps the bugs, right? It's like, no, we're not zapping anything. We're empowering, your body to change the terrain, right?
Beautiful.
The terrain, the environment, like we're talking about, Rebecca, so that your body can take care of it, and that you don't attract it again,
Right.
And that's where the power lies. We have the power to do that, but we have to see the common sense in it. Why are we fighting bugs? They're here for a reason. Just like you talked about before, Rebecca, with, creating the distance and seeing, here's the problem. Oh, I created it. Well, if we're all one, we're all part of the same universe. We created the bugs too. They're here for a reason too. And it's not for us to fight them, to go in some battle, some external separate battle thing. It's not about that. Right.
They're only there. And I just think these bugs, so to speak, these infections, they're always there, meaning the microbes are always in the body. It's just the balance or the ratio the terrain that shifts when we're not eating properly or sleeping properly or thinking properly, then one will get out of balance with another. And that's the problem. It's that whole harmony, getting back into harmony.
But then we fear them, right? So if we fear
Yeah.
these things, like, oh no, germs, oh no, there's parasites in that, and so then we're actually giving more power. We assign all this power to this external sort of thing, supposedly external thing. And then that detracts us, that distracts us from the truth, which is the power is in ourselves. And again, in changing the terrain and changing our environment.
Right. The savior was us all the time, was there all along, so I always say, just look in the mirror. The savior is you. Right? Okay, so health is the balance of the body, mind, and spirit. And so when a medical doctor checks you, they're checking at specific parameters. They're looking at you without considering the soul or the mind. And you're in and out. When I sit down with someone, it's about an hour. And so it's just like night and day, these two. Yeah. One I guess as I'm talking, I'm coming from a place of conscious healing, and they're coming from an unconscious perspective and dealing with illness from an unconscious place, I guess.
Yeah, and I was going to say that even when you're talking body, mind, and spirit, sometimes they're not even looking at the whole body or the whole system, even biochemically. You might go see someone and say, oh, I've got I don't know, I've got some problem on my skin. And so you go see a skin doctor, you go see the dermatologist, but maybe it's a liver problem, and they're not even going to think about looking at your liver, So it's really kind of myopic. It's a limited perspective. It's not that someone's trying to do something wrong. It's just, we're just coming from a standpoint of there's a more elevated view to take, and it's actually much more effective.
And authentic.
Yes.
So there's a saying in the technique that I was trained in called total body modification. You might have heard me mention it. And the affirmation that I love is the power that made the body heals the body. And so when you're if you're in the place of taking all this pharmaceutical, all these man-made things, well, you weren't made by man. So, and again, I'm just throwing a little logic out there that, your own self, your own power within is what will heal you. We all know that the immune system is what heals us, right? That's a part of us. To the extreme of, cancer therapy, it's always the immune system is going to be the one that's filtering the cancer cells and cleaning up the body. So why not support that? But anyway, more logic. So I don't know, do you have anything to interject?
No, I could just elaborate on the same points you're making. I'll just concur instead. Yes, exactly.
Agree.
Logic.
So I hope those that are watching have a better understanding of what self-awareness is. And that maybe you would be more inclined to seek out a healthcare professional that honors the Trinity that we are, and also honors the earth that we live on and the natural foods and herbs that it provides, as that is what we're designed to be living amongst. And we collectively have, over the past 100 years especially, have gone off so far away from nature that it's no wonder we're in a crisis. At least that's how I see it, as far as we've just lost our way. So let's get back to the basics.
Yeah, I hope that this video today helped kind of set the stage for you watching, to create that foundation. This is a cornerstone, really, or a keystone, I should say, to moving forward and learning how to heal yourself. Yeah. If you don't understand this basic concept, we can't start until you understand this basic concepts. That's why we want to talk in these kind of broader terms. If you have questions and want us to elaborate on anything, please use the comment section below the video and ask, or add to the discussion. We look forward to people participating on that level.
Yes, you can contact me, obviously. And that's what I'm here for. And I'm also doing another series on my own called the Self-Care Series, which is about how I exist without going to medical doctors of any kind. And so I'm going to share my tips and tools and insight and so on. So that's something else that I hope you join us for. And then following this episode, we're going to get into the specifics of, we're going to dive into vaccines and conventional medical doctors, et cetera, et cetera. But we want to just set the stage for, create a foundation for our talk. So thanks for watching.
Great, thanks. And if you found this helpful, please hit the like button, share it with anyone you think that might be helped by it. Again, you can comment and subscribe to both of our channels so you don't miss any of these episodes or the other projects and shows that we put out. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.